Good morning, everyone. We'll start the program in about 2 minutes. Please help yourself to some refreshments in the front, and we'll play a little video to get us started.
Congratulations! You just signed up for an online class. Now you don't have to deal with traffic or anybody else, really. You can just check in when you want and work when you want. It's easier, right? Wrong! Let's get a few things straight. University of Houston offers online courses so that you can have some flexibility. With that being said, you should also understand a few things before taking an online class. First, ask yourself, do you feel confident using a computer for all of your coursework? Also, are you comfortable using the internet and helping yourself should a technical problem occur? Just because it's online doesn't mean that you can do it on the go. You're going to need a quiet place and enough time to study every day. Online learning requires a high level of independence. There's no one physically there telling you what to do. Get used to the idea of doing a lot of learning on your own. You may need to reach out to someone, like a classmate, to collaborate and to keep each other accountable. Or not. You won't get quite the same kind of interaction in an online course as you will in a classroom. But even though you won't be communicating face to face, you're still expected to interact online a lot. A lot of communication will take place through email and Blackboard discussion. This means that you're going to have to check your Blackboard course and your email every day. Lastly, you're expected to complete weekly assignments. So you're going to have to put in roughly 10 hours a week and stay on top of due dates for every course. Hey, there are a lot of advantages in taking an online course, but it's only flexible to a certain extent. You're going to have to dedicate
Are you here for the Emerging Trends program?
Yes.
Okay. Please sign in.
If you do all the things we talked about, then you'll probably do fine in an online course. What to avoid when you need to study? Online shopping, playing games, doing coursework in a noisy environment, putting off assignments until the last minute. You get the picture. It's not worth the drama.
Okay. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed that video. It was, oh yeah, Shar? Yeah, of course. Yeah, we have it available on our website, and it's made for faculty to use for their courses. So that video was made by the Class Office of Educational Technology, and that's where I'm from. Hi, my name is Thanh, and I'm an instructional designer. I just want to welcome you to our Emerging Trends program today. So for those of you who are new to this program attending here, Emerging Trends is a program put together by the Office of the Provost and the Class Office of Educational Technology to inform you about emerging trends in educational technology, to direct you to helpful resources, and to share what other ideas of what faculty are doing with teaching and technology. Let's see if I can go here. So our program today is focusing on the transition to online learning. Today's program has 3 parts to it. The first part will be about the basics of online learning. My colleague Todd, Juneau, and I will be covering learning objectives and content organization. The second part will be covered by Andrea Arias-Rodriguez. She is from NSM, and she will be discussing how to use video to enhance course content. And our last part will be our faculty perspective, and it will be presented by Dr. Susie Gronseth from the College of Education, and she will discuss online teaching strategies to support communication, collaboration, and engagement. So we have a ton of stuff we want to cover today, so we're just going to jump right into it. So as mentioned earlier, Todd and I, Todd will introduce himself in a second, will be covering the basics of online course design. So before we begin, we kind of want to give you an explanation of how we went about deciding what we thought would be important to tell you about the basics of online course design. So in the beginning, Todd and I had kind of a hard time deciding what exactly we wanted to talk to you about, because there are so many different aspects in designing an online course and so many elements to it. So what we did was we took a look at some highly recognized programs about developing effective online courses. We looked at the Quality Matters program, the Blackboard Exemplary Course program, and we also looked at the recommended guidelines for U of H online courses. And if you would like more information about any of these programs or the U of H guidelines, we have a handout in the front, and all the links are listed there for you. So when we were browsing through these programs and the guidelines, there were some recurring things that we noticed, things that kept showing up. And so what we want to do to give you kind of a visual of what it was that we noticed, we took these guidelines and we plugged it into something called a word cloud maker. And what a word cloud is it's a cloud of words from the document or the web page, and the words that show up that have the highest frequencies show up largest on the word cloud. So in the U of H online courses checklist, we noticed that it really emphasized being clear inside of a class. And when we looked at the Blackboard Exemplary Course program, we noticed that it emphasized learning objectives, outcomes, goals, content, and resources. And when we looked at the Quality Matters program rubric, we noticed that it emphasized the same things: competencies, learning objectives, and being clear inside of a course. So that's why Todd and I will be talking to you today about learning objectives and about how to clearly organize your content. Right? So I'm going to hand this over to Todd.
Well, nice and cozy in here.
Just maybe in your pocket.
Just put it in my pocket.
Do you want to use this?
No, I'll just use a keyboard. Let me get wired up here. Just a second. They say you're supposed to point this at your nose to work. Okay, can everybody hear me okay? All right, as Thanh said, I'm Todd Juneau, also from the Office of Educational Technology for CLAS, and we were going through all the different aspects of designing an online course, and we decided for my part I would home in on one particular thing that will probably enable you to get the most bang for your buck when you're designing an online course, and that is learning objectives. As Thanh showed in the word clouds, you'll see how prominently learning objectives, stated clearly, features. And I think quite possibly this is probably the most vital aspect of designing an online course. When someone comes to me to build a course, the first question I ask them is, what is it that you want the student to be able to do at the end of your course? Or at the end of your chapter, your module, however you organize your course. So what do we mean by a learning objective? It's something I find that's very obvious but also very frequently overlooked. A statement of what the instructor wants the student to be able to do. Now, as I said, that can be at the end of the course itself, at the end of the chapter, at the end of the module, again, depending on how you organize your course. So, as you can see from my fine artwork here, a way to look at learning objectives is a kind of bridge between what your student is able to do now and what you want them to do at the end of your instruction. So, in our case, at the end of this presentation, attendees should be able to describe why learning objectives are important when designing an online course. So you can look at it as a learning objective or a goal. They're more or less the same thing, depending on how you apply them. So just some examples. of some chapter objectives from what I assume is a medical course. By the end of this module, you're stating when, you're stating what you want them to be able to do. Identify 3 practices, distinguish between different items. Course objectives. Those of you familiar with Bloom's taxonomy probably know a little bit about higher order thinking and the different goals you want to have for your course. Use lift and drag calculations to evaluate or create something. So it's a very simple concept. What is it that you want your learners to be able to do at the end of your instruction? I was a high school teacher in a past life. I taught high school history. And an administrative requirement for us was to write our daily learning objectives on the board. And I thought at the time it was just some bureaucratic thing that we had to do, the administration forced us to do, like, parts of the lesson planning and things like that. Well, a few years passed and I started to get into online course development. I built an online course for the U.S. history program in high school. And I quickly discovered how easy it is for students to get lost without the instructor in the room. Things that I thought were obvious and clearly written in the course, I found were not. As I continued building online courses, I also found that simply determining your learning objectives up front made it much easier to build the course, made it much easier to stay focused, as we'll see in a second. So, as an instructor, what I found was learning objectives help the teacher focus on a strategy. It's a lot easier to know where you're going, or how to get where you're going when you know where you're going, so to speak. A big factor was knowing your learning objectives up front helps you select content. I think those of you that have been doing this a while probably know that it's very easy for things to sneak on your assessments, your tests, your assignments, that may not necessarily have been covered adequately in class. Having your learning objectives up front avoids this problem. Simply knowing your learning objectives up front avoids the problem we in instructional design call scope creep, where you're constantly thinking of all these things you want your students to know. Oh, that'd be great. Know this, know this, know this. If you stay focused on your learning objectives, you avoid the problem of scope creep. If you stay focused, you don't have all the nice to knows in your course. You have the need to knows. Now, nice to know things have their place, but when you're writing tests, quizzes, or assignments, learning objectives help you differentiate between those need to knows and nice to knows. Learning objectives help the student as well. Stating your objectives up front help the students navigate the course as they move through your modules. When they get to the end of the module, if they have that learning objective to look at, they are able to see if they've accomplished the objective. If they feel like they haven't, they know that perhaps they missed something. Perhaps there's something that they needed to review further. Again, pretty simple. Communicates expectations. The learning objective will help you communicate expectations to the student. What do you want them to know, and more or less when you want them to know it. And of course, test, quizzes, and assignments from the student's perspective. If they know what the learning objectives are, like the instructor, learning objectives will help them know what is expected of them by the time they take their tests or complete a major assignment. That brings us to the concept of alignment. Simply put, we teach what we test and we test what we teach. So look at it as kind of learning objectives help you balance between the instructor's needs when they're building the course and the student's needs when they're moving through your material. Last question is, where do you put these objectives when you build a course? Well, obviously, course objectives usually will go best in the syllabus. This is what your goals for the course. This is what we expect students to know. Module or chapter objectives will entirely depend on how you organize your course, how you set up your content. And if you need assistance with doing that, please do not hesitate to call your instructional designers. That's what we're here for. You have your contact information. I believe contact information is in the handout. And on that note, I'm going to hand it back over to Thanh, where she's going to talk to you a little bit more about course organization. Thanks very much.
Okay, so I'll continue the discussion about the basics of online course design, and I'll talk about content organization. So previously, Todd, I guess, emphasized the importance of having learning objectives inside of the course. However, even a course with really clear, well-written learning objectives, lots of interesting content, a highly organized syllabus, even that kind of course can be received poorly by the student if they have a difficult time navigating through the content or trying to find things inside of the course. So that's why a lot of the guidelines that we looked through, they had something about the organization of content. So a student who's transitioning from having taken lots of face-to-face classes to taking a class that's fully online will need a different type of support because they're experiencing your course more independently online. So in this next part, I would like to talk to you about 3 course organization strategies to support the online students. And I would like to show you some examples of what U of H faculty are doing inside of their Blackboard courses. And we'll look at how they apply some of these strategies in some basic ways to some more advanced ways. So the first strategy that I'd like to discuss is to limit the amount of content that you present in a course to help students focus on just one thing at a time. The most basic way that I've noticed that our faculty do this is we chunk content into smaller units. We take the entire semester's work and we put it into sections, units, modules. And inside of Blackboard, it allows us to create pages, and within these pages we put our content and we can break it up into smaller units like folders and learning modules. A more intermediate step is we can control the visibility of the content. We can display the content one at a time in order to create a sort of a pace inside of our course. And Blackboard allows us to control the visibility dates and adjust the display options. So let's take a look at an example so that you can have a better idea of what I'm talking about. So in this example, this is an example from a Spanish course from a student's perspective. From the student's perspective, they can see that the instructor has organized the content by weekly groups. And this, the student can see the content up to Module 8, March 25th. But what the student doesn't realize is that the entire semester's work is all there already. It's organized by the instructor. But the instructor has made it so that the content is released weekly. So all the gray folders that you see up there are things that are hidden from the student, and Blackboard knows to release it at a certain set time. A more advanced way that you can limit the content to help students focus on one thing at a time is to actually require them to visit it one at a time in a specific order. You can do this inside of Blackboard by using a tool called Adaptive Release. And what Adaptive Release is it's kind of like a setting that you put into your content piece inside of your course, and you tell Blackboard that in order to access this must be completed first. So the basic way to use Adaptive Release is you can have the students mark that they have reviewed something, or to have them attain a minimum score in order to move on to the next piece of content. So let me show you an example. So this is a very basic example that I made. I made a syllabus that is 1 sentence long. And I also made an assignment called Assignment 1. Now in order, what I want the student to do is to review the syllabus. So they have to mark that they have reviewed the syllabus, and then their Assignment 1 will appear for them to access. The next example I'd like to show you is one that I've seen used in a lot of online classes, and that is, in this one specifically, this instructor requires students to complete an online orientation and to score 100% on the syllabus quiz before they can continue with the class. And I'm sorry, I realize you can't really see that well up there. So underneath this online orientation are the learning modules. However, a student who has not scored 100% on this quiz doesn't get to see the learning modules. They only see, they only see the online orientation. So those are some ways that you can limit the content to help students focus on one thing at a time. The next strategy I'd like to discuss is to make dates predictable. And when you make dates predictable, it helps students better anticipate their assignments and to better manage their time. The most basic way that I've seen faculty do this is, just list all your assignments and due dates in the syllabus from the very beginning. A more intermediate step is to make the dates consistent. Choosing just 1 or 2 days of the week and a single time of the day when something begins and ends helps almost like conditions the student to go back and check your class at that time of the week or that day of the week. What I've seen often is instructors have assignments due Sunday at midnight or Monday at noon. Just picking that one day or 2 days of the week and just that one consistent time really helps them manage their time. And a more advanced way is to reiterate assignments and due dates in multiple ways. In Blackboard, we can send email, we can send announcements to remind students. In this example here, this instructor, they took all their content, put it into a tool called a learning module, and it lists all the assignments on the left, like it creates a table of contents. He put the dates at the top of his folder or his learning module, and he makes a checklist for students inside of his module introduction. So the last strategy that I would like to discuss is to have a starting place inside of your online course to help orient the students to a new environment. So the most basic way you can do this is to just provide the syllabus in an easy-to-access visible area. A more intermediate step is to provide an introduction area. So that could be a page inside a Blackboard. It could be an introduction folder. Like the example below, it's an orientation folder and it just says start here. Very straightforward. You can have an introduction module or a quiz. A more advanced step is to have all those things plus orientation materials. And the orientation materials could be anything like a video of you, like what you would do in a face-to-face class, talking about your syllabus and what are the important things in your syllabus that students should know, should pay attention to. Or an orientation video on how to navigate around your course. Where do you put your things? How do you access the discussion boards? And then you can add links to outside help materials. That would also be helpful too. So if you would like to add a little bit more kick to your orientation or introduction page, our class Office of Educational Technology provides a resource called the Online Readiness Resources. And we've designed these set of 6 resources to help improve students' communication to each other and their communication to you, and to help them be more independent online learners. So the resources are a self-evaluation where they can evaluate whether or not they're ready for online learning, and through the evaluation they get links and information about where to get help for certain things. There's the Tips for Online Learning video, which was the video you saw at the beginning of the presentation. We have a communication do and don't infographic, a communication emailing your professor infographic, a discussion board guide, which is kind of like a little booklet, and then a set of videos for technical resources and help. So I'd like to show you really quickly what this looks like. And the resources are linked inside of the handout. But if you go to uh.uh.edu/OET, you can find it in the faculty area, the readiness resources. And since this might take a long time for me to go through this, I'll show you my favorite one, which is the communication, emailing your professor. I've been told that this has been helpful to online instructors. So this one is called How to Email Your Professor Without Embarrassing Yourself. So it starts off with an explanation and an example of, what is a poorly written email. And I'm sure that several of you have received an email like this. But it reminds them that their writing reflects their professionalism and to think before hitting send. And it gives them 5 very easy steps to follow. Use the subject line, start with a salutation, briefly state the purpose, be specific, use the closing, and sign it. And then it gives them an example of what a good email looks like. Okay? So please, visit this link and explore these resources on your own time. If you would like to have these copied into your course, it's available as inside of a Blackboard folder, and you can copy it over and modify it however you want, take away, put more into it, and just contact your instructional designer if you need help with this. Okay? So that's all that Todd and I have for you. We'll like to, I guess, continue on to the next person, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, how many of you have already taken the plunge in teaching an online course? So we have a few people. Okay, next up we have Andrea. She is the instructional designer for the College of Natural Sciences and Mathematics. And she has an extensive understanding of using video as a learning resource, and currently teaches an Introduction to Video Production short course here at U of H. And she's going to talk about using video to enhance your online courses. So, Andrea.
Thank you. This one, I guess. Can you hear me? It's fine. Okay. So basically, as Tran was telling you, sometimes it's difficult. You want to tell people or the audience a lot of things. So I try to put it concisely. So I hope these steps are useful for you to start using video to enhance your course content. First, I want to talk about why you will want to use video. So there are many reasons. Some of them include access. Students can access video anytime from anywhere. They can also revisit videos at any time, which gives them some choice and responsibility and autonomy. They can visualize new concepts that are difficult to grasp. They can use video to visualize them. There's a sense of presence. As was mentioned before, some professors use video as an introduction to the class, and that gives the students the presence. They feel connected to the professors, and they know now they feel more committed to the course and control. So again, we want to use video to give students choice. They can use it at any time. They can control how long they want to watch the video, where they want to visit the video, and things like that. So those are some of the reasons why we would want to use video. So another question that you may ask, how can I integrate video into the classroom, the online classroom? So here are just some few ideas that can help you think about how you can use video for your course. So first, to stimulate engagement, comprehension, and retention, to connect concepts to real-world examples, to generate discussions and set the tone of the class, to illustrate complex topics, as I mentioned before, to bring to the classroom places, guests. So for example, if you want to show a student some kind of, in a geology class, you want to show them a place, you can use video to bring the students to that place. To address different learning preferences, so video reaches visual and auditory learners. So video is a good way to reach different learning styles, and to develop literacy and critical thinking. So when you use video, you can use it for your content, but you can also ask your students to create video. When they create video, they have to think about how the idea. They have to come up with new ideas. They have to develop. That's going to help them to develop their critical thinking skills. Also, if you're thinking about video in research, well, yes, video can be used also in your research to promote new ideas, to explain concepts, to keep track of new events, illustrate processes, tutorials, demonstrations with how-to videos, to record time lapses. If you are recording a process that takes long, then you can use video to show that process in a short amount of time. Also, to show video abstracts. I've seen some professors submitting videos as an abstract for their research papers, so that's another way to use video, and to show simulations. So those are just some ideas that you can start thinking about when you want to use video in your course. Now, where do I start? This is the question that probably you're thinking. Now I'm going to go online. How do I choose the best video content for my course? So I found these 3 steps that you can take to help you introduce those videos in your course and make them effective for the students' learning and to improve, to enhance their learning. The first step is to identify the learning objectives. So we just mentioned it's very important to have in our minds clear what we want the students to learn. Once we know that, when we can select the video-based content that meets those learning objectives. Then you can apply the best practices to introduce those video content in your course. So I'm going to look into each one of these steps closely. First, identify learning objectives. So first, to identify the learning objectives, you can ask yourself the following questions. First, what is that you want your students to learn? So for example, here I create a table that you can also use for your Blackboard online course to list the learning objectives, and then you can also match the video or the content that you found that is useful to help a student learn that objective, to reach or to accomplish that objective. And this is very helpful also visually for the students, because they are going to know why they are watching that video. They are going to have a reason to watch it, and also there are some assignments associated with that video or with that content. So that's going to help them grasp the idea of the content or the video. So the other 2 questions that can help you identify the learning objectives is the video to introduce new concepts, review old ones, or extend something that happened in class? That's another way to know what kind of video you need. If it's a new concept, maybe you can you can look online and try to find that concept, because somebody already found a way to explain that in a very useful way. But maybe you were not able to find that online. So the next step is to produce your own video, to create it. Now, the other question that you may ask is the video to provoke thoughts and promote critical thinking, or is it to provide simple factual information? That's going to help you realize what kind of assessment you are going to match to that content, so that it's going to be useful for the students to learn something either new, or to, for example, if it's a video that provokes a discussion, then that's going to be a different assignment and different assessment for that content. So the second step is to select a video-based content format. So you want to select the best video content that is going to match your learning objective. So there are a lot of options. I'm just going to talk about 3 of them. You can produce your own video. This is if you have your webcam or your iPhone or any kind of device with a camera and with a microphone, or you create your narrated PowerPoint or lecture capture. You can capture your lecture if you are, for example, for the professors that are teaching face-to-face and they are also thinking about going online, they could capture the lecture on the class and then make some modifications as needed. Or you can choose existing video clips. Now, these are some of the, there are many advantages of using each one of these options. So I'm just choosing the one that I thought was more important. So when you produce your own videos, you can customize. So if you didn't find what you needed, again, you can just get your camera, your microphone, and anything that is needed to create a video and to produce what you need the students to learn. Okay, so that's an advantage of producing your own video. Now, if you decide to record your lecture, if you are doing it face-to-face and you want to take it to the online course, you can, that's going to be helpful for the students to review before exams or to go back in the lecture and realize things that they didn't understand during the lecture. That's going to be helpful for, again, for review. And now, existing video clips. So this is a quick and easy way to find videos. You can just go to different libraries of videos, such as YouTube or other libraries, and find the video that is going to meet the needs of your learning, or that is going to help the students accomplish the learning objective. Now, once you decide whether you want to create your own video or you want to capture a PowerPoint, narrated PowerPoint, or whether you want to choose an existing video, you have to think about the best practices to enhance the students' learning experience in your online course. So for that, you're going to need to apply best practices. So one of the best practices that is mentioned in many websites, and we just talk about how you want to make things simple, is to chunk information, to have videos that are not longer than 5 to 7 minutes. So what happens is that some studies have shown that the students are engaged until about 7 minutes, and after that they just lose. They are not really engaged, they are not watching the video, and they get tired. So a solution is to create videos to make sure that you have videos that are short. Now, if you choose an option to record your lecture that is face-to-face and that lasts an hour and a half or 1 hour, there are some players that help students search information. So that's gonna, even though the video is long, if you have a player that helps students find information on your video, then that's going to be helpful for them, and they are not going to get bored watching your video, or they are going to actually find information that they need to learn, to accomplish the learning objectives. Another best practice is to accommodate different learning styles. For that, you want to make sure that your video includes visuals, that the audio is clear, and that the students are able to recognize different concepts. So for example, if you are talking about a new, if you are explaining a new concept, you want to highlight that word or make it clear so that the students can visualize it, but at the same time they can hear the meaning. So that's one of the practices, try to accommodate different learning styles. Also include assessments. When you are creating your course online and you realize that you want to use video, then it's good to have an assignment or an assessment that is matching that content, that video-based content. So for example, in this page, I organize a lesson that includes a couple, well, 3 videos, and at the end, I have a discussion board that talks about those videos. So it's asking the students to look into the videos and to discuss something that was shown in the video. And also there is a quiz that is going to make students accountable of watching these videos. Also, you can create an assessment, for example, an essay or paper, and that's going to give them more flexibility and freedom to talk about the content. In terms of technical considerations, there are a lot of tools to record video, and you can start from having a studio, which is kind of complicated. But if you have your computer and you have a camera, you can use any of these tools: Screencast-O-Matic, TextMeet Relay, or Office Mix. And I'm just mentioning 3 of them. There are tons of tools that you can use to record your voice and the screen. And if you want to include the video, usually you're going to have it on the side, and you can create your videos. If you want more information about this, you can contact me, or any instructional designer can help you find and use these tools. Also, in terms of technical considerations, if you're using PowerPoint, just as we know, it's important to be clear. And then if you are using a tablet PC, and if you are in face-to-face classes, you are using whiteboards, a good transition to video and online courses is to use an annotation tablet or a tablet PC, because it allows you to write on the tablet while you are recording your video. And so it's going to make it more clear for students to see what you are doing on the screen. And then it's good to provide detailed instructions for accessing and playing lectures. So you want students to be able to know how to access these videos. Another important consideration with videos is to create accessible videos. When you have videos, you have to make sure that you are including captions. So in the ideal online course, you want to make your videos accessible, including captions, transcripts, audio description. And that's possible with tools that are free, but usually they are only 65% accurate. So yeah, in the future, and actually right now, it's better to try to find maybe an outsourced place that gives you the captions and that you can use for your video, make it ADA compliant. Another consideration, once you have your video, watch the video and correct any mistakes. Provide any content-related questions or other learning activities. Make sure that you have guiding questions when you are adding a video into your course. And evaluate your video. This is an important part of pedagogy. You want to make sure that your video is following good practices. So I have a handout that includes a rubric that helps you evaluate your video. I'm not going to go through all of them, but in general, you want to make sure that you are making the video including clear text, clear visuals, clear narration, and that is matching the learning objectives of your course. So finally, another best practice is to meet with your instructional designer to learn a little bit more about how to choose the best media for your course. And we encourage you to meet with an instructional designer in your college or the FDIS department. And so we learned today that videos are a great tool for learning, and to start using it, just make sure that you make it clear and this matches the learner needs, what the learner needs to know. And that's it. If you have any questions, you can ask me at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for giving us tips on how to make videos more meaningful to students and what are all the options that faculty have for getting started. So our next presenter is Dr. Susie Gronseth, who will discuss online teaching strategies to support communication, collaboration, and engagement. Dr. Susie Gronseth is a clinical assistant professor in the Learning Design and Technology program area in the Department of Curriculum and Instruction in the College of Education. She teaches undergraduate and graduate courses relating to instructional technologies, learning theories, and instructional design. She taught her first online course in 2007 and has since been exploring ways to improve online education through providing clearer communication of content and multiple ways that students can meaningfully engage with concepts, materials, and the learning community. She's presently serving as the president of the International Society for Technology and Education's Inclusive Learning Network, a professional organization that focuses on enhancing opportunities for all learners through effective practices and technology resource. I personally know Dr. Gronseth because I've had the pleasure of taking her online courses and receiving her mentorship. And I can't help but add that she is well known among the College of Education student community for having well-designed and engaging online classes. Please help me welcome Dr. Susie Gronseth.
That was quite the introduction. Thank you, Thanh. So I could spend a long time giving you examples of ways to implement the things that the previous presenters have shown you. And I'm going to spend about 10 to 13 minutes, and then we'll have opportunities for questions after that. But I'm going to show you a sampling of, a few ideas that my students have found particularly effective. And I am not the only presenter in this session for this portion. I want to recognize my CUIN 7350 class. We have 3 students who are here in this session. We have Ngozi Anwama, and we have Dongyang Zhang and Jingwan Fu, who is here. And you can ask them questions as well. And then I'm going to show you some of the student voices from my online section of this class. So I'm currently teaching a face-to-face and an online section, 2 sections of the same course. And so I cover the same content, but in different ways, depending on the format of the class. And it's been kind of neat the way we started doing this past fall with one of our courses in the Learning Design and Technology program area. And it's been kind of neat for me as an instructor to make decisions about how I'm going to represent content and how I'm going to engage learners and build that class community in those 2 different formats. So I'm going to show you something that's been an inspiration to me, and I'll be talking about this more next month in our conference session. But this is the Universal Design for Learning framework. And there are 3 main principles: providing multiple means of engagement, providing multiple means of representation, and providing multiple means of action and expression. And I've got a link here to the udlcenter.org. There's a ton of resources on this website and on the CAST.org website about Universal Design for Learning. And in my 7350 class, this next month, we'll be digging even deeper into how Universal Design for Learning helps us to teach in online and blended kinds of environments. But I just want to show you my inspiration, because once I became aware of UDL, I started thinking about the kinds of things that I was doing in my classes and the kinds of barriers that students were experiencing and what I could do to help them overcome those barriers. And often that's to provide some flexibility in the ways that I represent content, in the ways that I engage learners, and the ways that they can actually express what they are learning. So that's Universal Design for Learning, and that's been a huge inspiration to me in what I've been doing in my classes. So a couple weeks ago in 7350, we had a discussion about what were things that helped us be better online learners. And this is a Padlet wall, Padlet. Padlet.com, it's a free Web 2.0 tool. I use this sometimes in my discussions, so I don't always do discussions on Blackboard forums. I do them sometimes on an interactive wall like this, and this is a great brainstorming tool where students can post ideas, and I've just expanded it here so that you can see that students have been posting lots of great information on the wall, and I just post a prompt and they're able to post away. So what my ideas that I pulled for this presentation come from are what the students highlighted as what has really helped them to be better, more successful online learners. So here's the first one, and I want to acknowledge we have some students that are watching by live stream and others that are going to be watching the recording, and so these are their voices as well as the ones that are here in the room. So this first area that was highlighted was that assignments that mirror a face-to-face class were appreciated. So not everything has to be a project. Projects work really well in online classes, but not everything has to be. And not everything has to be built around a discussion every week. So there are sometimes places where having some kinds of tasks that you would do in a face-to-face class for attendance works really well. And I want to show you just really quickly how I structure my syllabus. And so you can see in this assessment portion that attendance/online participation, because I have those two sections going simultaneously, are just a part of the class. We do have projects, but we do other things, like we do have some quizzes, some online quizzes. We do have some interactive activities, we call them UDL, book study activities, that's in one particular module, and then we have 3 projects. And then there's some other optional things that are bonus points that allow students to go further and do more if they want to. So my syllabus and all of my documents are in Google Drive, and this is a good chance to show you that. I do that because that allows me to edit them in here and just link to them in my Blackboard course site. So if I upload the file into Blackboard, if I make any change, I have to re-upload the file. But if I link directly to my Google Drive file, then I can not only link it in Blackboard, but I can also link it in my email announcement. I can link it in other kinds of tools like GroupMe that I'm going to show you here in a second. And so it just gives me a lot more flexibility. Another thing I want to point out on this is that I create kind of a brand for each class, and you saw that in the Spanish class. This is really simple. It's from a PowerPoint slide. So I just take a PowerPoint slide, I put some kind of background, maybe images, some text, and I can either export it as a picture or just take a little screenshot of that portion and stick it right there in all of my materials so that all of the handouts look the same. They have that branding, and that really helps me because I teach 4 classes a semester, and sometimes I get confused when I log into my class site which class I'm in, but if I see this color scheme, this branding, I know exactly where I am. So that's something that I highly recommend, and you can see that on my syllabus. Another thing before I go back to the presentation is that I do a table of contents in my syllabus and any other documents that are pretty long. That way you can just jump around. And the way that you do that is you can't see it on here, but you, instead of doing everything as normal text, you set some things to be headings. And when you have them as headings, then you do the tool to create a table of contents, and it does it for you. So each of these things, like instructor information, is a heading, and that appears in my table of contents. And it's really easy to now jump down to something like the course calendar and not have to scroll and scroll and scroll. So I do that for all of my long documents. And my documents are something that students really, really like. They love the handouts and the detail that I provide in pretty much everything that's in the class, because that's my main way of communicating with them, is having it written. And I have a lot of students that are speaking English as a second language in my classes, and so that provides that support for them to see it in print. I might also do a video where I tell them about it, but they have it in print, and it's great. They can search it. This is a document that has all the readings in it. So I do have the readings in each week in each module, but I have one document that has them all in one place as well. So I find that's really helpful that they can reference that to go back to find where that reading was, maybe to reference in a future week. Here's another document. This is, I'll show you this one. This is my weekly handout, and I do this in different ways in different classes. But this one has that banner again. It's a Google Doc. and it has information about what the date range is that we're doing, and then it's numbered. And Thanh came up with this tabular format for another course that we were teaching together, and I still use it because I find it works really well. 1, 2, 3, you go through this recommended order, and all of the links are right there. So I do some recorded presentations, and you can see that the link is right there. We have some discussions and the information, the questions that are going to be in that discussion, whether this one's a Twitter chat, but sometimes they're Blackboard Collaborate sessions, sometimes they're forum discussions. But you can find all the information in one place. So if you go to the forum discussion, I will have the questions there as well. But there's one document that's got everything. So it's not all scattered all these different places. And I have a shortened Google link that then I can send to students or put in GroupMe or whatever. So this just gives me a lot of flexibility. And I want to show you at the end the to-do checklist. So I saw that another class mentioned that, the one that had the learning module, right, the history class. So I do this on my handout. So students really like this. This is just going through the narrative that's above and what are the things that have to be submitted or done for that week in a to-do checklist. All right. So here's another example. This is another class. And this one, I put the objectives at the top and kind of a little overview of what we're covering in that week. But it's kind of got the same content. I just formatted it a little bit different for this one. And so, you know, do whatever works best for you. And I put the to-do checklist at the top, so you don't have to find it at the bottom. But that's it. And I also will bold and make all caps, you know, the action that they have to do. And I usually bold any kinds of dates or deadlines. So students really, really like those. And it's great for me too, as just trying to plan out what's going to happen in the week. So I don't have a whole lot of time. I'm just going to show you a couple more ideas. This one comes from another course, not 7350, 7390, and we have a couple of people who have been instrumental in redeveloping this course. It's on instructional design. George Zhao and Hao Yu Zhang helped and are helping in redesigning and helping us make this more of a gamified class. And so this just gives you an idea that you don't have to do it in this text-based linear module format that you've seen in all these other examples. It can go more creative and in this case more fantastical. It's really been interesting for me as an instructor because I've been able to tap into my creative and imaginative side as I've been thinking about, in this case, applying my content to a fantasy context of space travel. So we sometimes embody characters within our class, and we can engage in the discussion in that character. We can log in as one of our characters and engage in the discussion in character. We send out announcements as commanders. We have games and lots of things around this fantasy context. So it's just another way to go about the online course. I do weekly announcements, sometimes more than weekly, but definitely at the beginning of every week. Sometimes I start the class on Mondays, sometimes I start it on Wednesdays, but whichever day I choose, I do that through the whole semester. So in my 7350 class, we go Wednesday to Tuesday, and I like that midweek start because that gives students the weekend and then a couple of days in the start of the week before heading into the new content. But sometimes it works better for students. It depends on the class that I'm teaching to start on Monday and end on Sunday night. But I send out a weekly announcement. I send it through Blackboard, and I copy the send to email checkbox. And I keep a Google Doc of all of my announcements so that I can reuse content for future semesters. I started using a tool called GroupMe this semester, and this was on the suggestion of our instructional designer in the College of Education, Velvet Lawrence. And it's been a really growing opportunity for me to learn a new mobile-based tool that students have just loved. We were using it in our 7350 class, and we're able to have that class community that tends to happen more naturally in a face-to-face class, but students are spontaneously discussing and sharing, and it's been great. And so you just create a group for your class and enroll the students, and then they just take it from there. I create calendar entries for each week in my class, and then they can download it to their calendar. We share pictures of different activities. So I did an activity called a marshmallow challenge in my face-to-face class, and I challenged the online students to do it too, and some of them did, and they shared pictures on GroupMe of how high they got their tower. So that's just an example of how we've been using it, and we do discussions, and we do just a lot of things in it, and it's been neat. This is just an example of how I organize, and you saw some other examples, how you chunk the content into folders as opposed to having it in one long list. And we do, you don't have to have just the text, you can insert images, so sometimes we'll do icons and images just to sort of make things move along. This is something that I put together this semester for 7390 Instructional Design, and it gives you an idea of that flow in one view. So for one module, you can see that we are having a couple of chapters, we're having some discussion, we're doing these tasks, and they're due on these days. So it's just another way to communicate to students what's happening when. That's another example of the way things are organized. We can put some optional materials in a different place than the required materials and make that very clear to students. We did discussion on Twitter this semester, and I started using that a couple of years ago. So we do some chats and in this case, we were involved with a larger chat outside the class within the International Society for Technology and Education's Educational Technology Coaches Network. And so we participated with 500 educators around the world in these Twitter chats. So it wasn't just within our class anymore. They were able to discuss the ideas with people around the world, with educators and instructional designers and other people in education. It was neat. One of the projects that we've done in 7350 caused some of the students to have to meet up face to face to complete it, and so it was neat that they were able to meet face to face, and they did that spontaneously to record this video that you can see here. So that was a successful one. Sometimes I create video overviews. I use Screencast-O-Matic. I have a professional version of it. It's like $30 for 3 years, and that's really great because my content changes so often, so I can create new videos very easily to update the content. This one is talking about peer review. So I have used the peer review tool in Blackboard, but I prefer to do it in other ways. And in this screenshot, you can see we're doing it on the discussion board, and I assigned students to peer review specific groups. And I usually give them prompts about what kind of feedback to give. And students find that valuable. I do lots of rubrics for the more open-ended project-based assignments about what I'm expecting students to see and how things are weighted so they know what to put more effort into. And I can share specific examples about that. So overall, I try to provide multiple ways that students can engage with the content, whether it's through the Blackboard site or now through GroupMe or by email. I provide multiple ways that I represent the content to them through readings, through videos, through immersive game experiences, and I give them options for how they can express it in videos, in perhaps brochures and blog posts, lots of different ways that they can express their learning. And I find that that helps them to engage more with the content and to have a more enjoyable experience. How's that?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Gronseth. Thank you for sharing all that feedback from the students and for all those ideas on how you can conduct an online class. So at this point, we'd like to open up the floor for the audience. If there are any questions. Yes, sir?
For making videos, for somebody who's just getting started, is there actually 3 different programs? And I know I think in our college we use Camtasia a lot. Is there one that's more user-friendly than the others?
I'd say
there are different Camtasia options, but they are usually, you can just install the application and then just start the recording and then post to the server. So they're friendly.
I try to vary it. Sometimes I'll do the PowerPoint on the screen with me just talking over it, and I'll use Screencast-O-Matic for that, or Camtasia would work fine. Sometimes I just want to mix it up and I want to have that presence, and so I'll set up my webcam on my laptop or my phone, and I'll just record myself for 5 to 7 minutes talking about the concepts and just talking to the students through the camera, and then I just upload it to YouTube. I might throw a title on there, and maybe if it's just 2 to 3 minutes, I might put a little background track to it, because you can do that on YouTube now, on YouTube Editor. You don't even have to have a video editor program, but sometimes I just mix it up like that. And then sometimes if the video is going to be something that I'm going to use multiple semesters, I'll put more time into it. And we have some great resources here at UH that they can shoot you on a green screen, and they can help you get things a little bit more fancy with the video. But my content tends to change so much that it's better just to, most of the time, just do those selfie videos or a screen capture on Screencast-O-Matic.
And doesn't the library have media services and video recording and things like that that are available?
I know that the library has audio recording services. They have audio engineers there, but I think they're working on the video part. I don't think they have that yet. But I think you can, they do? Okay, I need to check it out. But some of the colleges also provide a recording room where it uses something called Media Site. And are you in the business college or?
Hotel.
Hotel, okay. Oh, okay. But yeah, but some of the colleges have a room where it's set up that you could just go in, press the play button, and it gets recorded, and then an instructional designer can send you a video of what you did. Are there any other questions? Yes, Shari?
Hi, my name is Shari Mathner. I'm an instructional designer from College of Pharmacy, and we're going to be doing our first online course next fall, and we're struggling with how to mimic face-to-face. And one of your students mentioned assignments that mimic the face-to-face environment. What's an example of that?
I don't like to think of it as mimicking face-to-face because I want to try to capitalize on the benefits of the face-to-face environment when I'm face-to-face in the online environment, because there are things that I can do online that don't make as much sense face-to-face. What she was talking about was that attendance example, things that you're trying to do to see that the students are looking at the materials, that they're getting the concepts, that they're logging in, those kinds of attendance things that you would see when they're physically sitting in the class. And so before I used to do discussion board. I mean, that was implicitly how I could see that students were reading the materials and responding by posting on the discussion board, and I got really tired of discussion board postings. So I tried to see how could I vary those evidences of how they're participating and logging in. I mean, you can see their login log, but you can't see how they're engaging with the materials. So yeah, we do a variety of discussions. We do the Padlet postings. We do some discussion board. I do offer some synchronous sessions, but because my students mostly are graduate students, they have varying schedules, and I will offer an alternative asynchronous discussion option for any synchronous. It's not required that they be there. They can have that engagement in another way. So if I have a Blackboard Collaborate session, there'll be a comparable Blackboard Forum discussion happening at the same time or similar times. Sometimes the Blackboard Forum discussion has to happen longer. So a couple of weeks ago, I had, I think, 7 tasks that they had to do to explore their digital presence online. And in the face-to-face class, these were things that we were doing constructively, hands-on, going through, exploring what was out there on doing their own name search and finding out what kinds of things needed to either be taken down or modified or updated. And so I wrote those out and I provided a handout for the online students to fill in notes about what they learned as they went along, and then they submitted their note sheet. So that was kind of a comparable, where we were talking about it in the face-to-face class and going through it face-to-face. The online students, I wasn't there with them, but I still wanted to see that they were doing it, and I didn't want them to come to the same end. You know, it was the kind of assignment that would be different for different people, so I had them just have a reflective note sheet. Another thing that we've done is write a reflective blog post. So they are able to find things that they find meaningful and write about them and share about them in their own space, so taking ownership of the learning. So that's a couple of things.
Okay. Yes, sir?
Does you have any restrictions on the content you can post? For example, if I download a video from YouTube that is, I don't know, intellectual property and copyrighted, can I include it in my class? Or?
That's a great question.
Well, I think what
Like
happens is
a
that
Khan Academy that is readily available on YouTube.
because with Blackboard, students are required to log in.
Yeah.
That's going to be part of your class, so you should be able to do it. Once you use it outside, that might be different. But if you're using it in your online, in Blackboard, that should be fine.
You can embed the video into Blackboard. You create an item, and then you open up the HTML, and you paste that embed code, and then it'll appear in your list of things. You don't have to download it and re-upload it to Blackboard. That might be a way to circumvent it. But I usually just link to it, because that way they can open it up in their own browser.
As long as it's available on YouTube, you can click.
It's like any other resource, in my view.
You could also do a web link, a simple
Yeah,
web
yeah.
link. So
That's
have
fine.
to be
Your page and restrictions.
Yes, sir?
There's some of these strategies that work better with small classes rather than large classes. Discussion boards, the one that gives me nightmares. Can you think of anything else besides a discussion group that doesn't scale? I have 600 online students.
That's a great question. We have massive open online courses, MOOCs, that we offer through the Light Lab, and so that's been a real issue for us because we have thousands, sometimes 20,000 people in the course. And so, yeah, we can't possibly read and reply into the discussions, but we try to do it strategically so that it shows that we're present. We try to group students into smaller groups so that they are only having to read small portions of material. We try to think about what are those outcomes. So he was talking about objectives. And you look at your objective. Do you want the student to list? Do you want them to explain? Do you want them to describe? And then the activity needs to correspond to that outcome. So it might be suitable for a discussion.